Welcome into episode 535 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the group stage at the Olympics has come and gone. The initial qualification matches happened at 6:10 this morning with Germany and Switzerland moving on over France and Italy. So we're starting to get a clearer. Sorry, Bridget, I know that was your gold medal pick, but what can you do?
Did we agree on what Bridget's punishment was for getting her pick wrong?
She just has to keep doing this podcast with us. That's enough punishment for her. So we're starting to see the quarterfinal rounds start to take shape. We have two more matches to determine, which will take place a little bit later on today.
Also, the women, the Canada and American women are going to play for the gold medal.
For the seventh time in 8 Olympics that they've been participating, correct?
Yeah, there's only one time it was Sweden instead of the U.S. But yeah, I don't know. I think that U.S. team is really, really good. It's going to be really hard to beat, which we can get into them too if you want to at some point. But I know we're going to talk a lot of.
They're gonna beat Canada by at least 4 goals.
No,
they've scored 5 goals in every game so far. So
I think the women's tournament deserves a lot of acknowledgement and conversation because, as you guys alluded to, the U.S. team are major favorites going up against Canada. I was listening to some NHL radio over the last couple of days, and when discussing, obviously a lot of the NHL radio shows are based out of Canada, and whenever they were discussing the potential of a gold medal game between U.S. and Canada, they would say they would acknowledge that the U.S. women's team is the favorite, but they would kind of caveat it by saying like, well, they only played one game and Canada they're more than capable of winning gold against them in their second meeting. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I mean, yes, like that's true, but you're completely omitting the fact that U.S. women's has beaten Canada head to head, 6-7 times over the last calendar year as well.
Yeah, five times since November.
Yeah, so it's again, Canada is not
and has drastically outscored them in those 5 meetings.
Yeah, so Canada's not to be counted out, but the U.S. women's team, they are not simply the favorites because of their win over Canada in this tournament and the other teams. It's been a long time coming for this team. So yeah, that gold medal game is, I want to say Thursday morning.
Thursday at 1.
Okay.
1:00 Eastern time.
Okay. All right. Well, we have some thoughts to get in. Oh, Bridget, I think you're a little bit quiet right now.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes my mic is weird. I'll fix it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so we have some Olympic hockey to get into, but we'll start off with our opening shifts.
Yeah, and I'll go first because, we just have to mention this, the obviously tragic shooting that happened down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on Monday at a high school hockey game. If people have seen the video from inside the rink, just terrifying stuff. Like, just can't even imagine what those kids felt like on the ice, the coaches, the parents. So 3 people dead, including the shooter. Just an awful situation. And, for all of us, for anyone who has been around high school hockey, been around youth hockey, like, just to imagine something like that happening at a game is devastating. I know there's as happens with any of these shootings, things immediately get politicized and sensationalized, and like, I'm not going there. I think I speak for all 3 of us. Like, we have no intention of doing any of that. But they just want to acknowledge, like, just a tragic situation and something that, unfortunately everyone who is in that rink is never going to be able to forget. So thoughts to the Pawtucket community.
Yeah, well said, Scott. It really is unfathomable, and you see it in the hockey rink. It's been in the most common of settings that you just never expect: a movie theater, a bowling alley, a school. But yeah, obviously we're thinking of everybody involved in that as well. Bridget?
Yeah. So my opening shift has to do with since the last time we recorded, Jeremy Swayman got his first Olympic start. And it was off to a rocky start for him in the Olympics. And I was broadcasting at BU at the time and following along with everything that was happening. And went back and watched it later. But in real time, I had gotten a text from my dad, like, oh, Swayman just let in a goal from center ice. And I was like, that's not good. Right. I'm like, so then I'm like on Twitter trying to find it. I'm like, what happened? Like, how this can't be real. Sometimes my dad exaggerates. So I was like, I gotta find this. And no,
isn't it fun how impossible it is to find highlights of really any Olympic event, but Olympic hockey?
No, like you're right. Because what I ended up finding was like eventually I did find it. The thing that was, I guess, the most telling thing that I saw about it was actually a shot that they had from behind Swayman where you could see where he was looking, but you couldn't see the puck because it disappeared on what was like a dark gray black background on the boards. So I know originally people were like, oh God, this is terrible for Swayman. But when you looked at it from that angle, it was like, I don't think I could have seen it. I don't think many people would have been able to pick that up. And so anyway, he let up a goal from almost center ice, and it wasn't the best of games. It should have been, it felt like it should have been an easier win over Denmark. At the early goings was kind of rocky and shaky. Not 100% his fault either. I think that they probably could have scored more as well in the beginning. Not that they didn't end up scoring eventually, but so Swayman gets his start, and because of the kind of controversy that came out of it with the boards, why were the boards dark in the first place? They actually changed it for the quarterfinal games. So I saw a picture of it this morning. The boards are now like all blue and green in that area instead of black. So I'm trying to think back to any hockey rink I've ever been in. The boards are white with like some wording on it. It's never like a whole chunk of black or whatever. Also, we found out that Jeremy Swayman was colorblind, which I didn't know before that.
Neither did I.
So he said that it wasn't because like all the colors were weird.
By the way, like his explanation for that doesn't make any sense. He's like, I'm colorblind, so it doesn't matter. It's like, but you still see dark and light. So if there's a dark puck on a dark background, like the effect still, it doesn't matter if it's black or navy blue.
Yeah, if it's just dark, right? Like, and also I would think that being colorblind would hurt in that situation because if and I know there's different types of colorblindness, and I'm sure like if someone might be able to comment if they are, like what this actually means to people that deal with it, but like wouldn't you think if it was green and then dark and then like blue, it would be easier to pick up the puck if you had regular vision? I don't know. Like to me, if everything is gray, that's I don't know. It feels like a valid excuse to me. I'm actually shocked that he is colorblind, doing the job that he has, where you think you would need pretty good vision. But apparently, it's pretty common among men.
I think it's like 10% of all men are colorblind.
Yeah, I have multiple guy friends who are colorblind. So yeah.
Here's quickly my take before you go into your opening shift, Brian. I hear everything about the dark boards and the weird sight lines and all of it. You still can't give up a goal from center ice in the Olympics. Like, I'm sorry. Like, however you might want to explain it, that still just can't happen. Like, you've had practice time out there. You get a look in warm-ups. Like, whatever is going, that may be completely valid. He may have just lost the puck. That's what he said afterwards. It still can't happen. It's still a goal from center ice in the Olympics. And Jeremy Swayman's not going to play another minute in the Olympics, largely because of it. And I can't blame the U.S. coaching staff for that.
Yeah, I mean, in what world would anybody feel confident putting him back in this tournament? Like it's the board color, the color blindness. You know, that's one thing. The excuse that I heard, or the explanation that I heard from not Jeremy, but from analysts out there, was, oh, you know, the these players are used to fans being right on top of the glass, and their depth perception is off because the fans are set back. I'm like, come on, really? That to me, that's okay. So you can't stop a puck from center ice because the fans are 20 feet back than normal. Like, that's just that was such a lame excuse. And again, not from Jeremy, I don't believe, but from third parties. And ultimately, it's a game against Denmark where the U.S. is out shooting them like 14 to 4 midway through the first period, and they've got 2 goals past Swayman. It's like, it's just unacceptable. The first goal was a bit of a tougher situation because it goes off of, I want to say, Werenski's skate or somebody's skate, but even then, it's like it's a minute and a half into the game. So not how Jeremy drew up his Olympic debut, but I guess he did settle down for the remainder of the game. Not that he was tested all too heavily, but he did have some good saves in the final 40. But I also didn't like the third goal he let in, that slap shot from distance. That was not great either. So I forgot.
Yeah, I do think Miller screened him on that one. That's a play where you tell any forward going out in that situation, either block the shot or get out of the way. And I think JT Miller just inadvertently screened him. You can still say like Swayman probably should have fought around it or whatever, but
they did say on the broadcast that Swayman's save percentage on shots from distance was less impressive than many goalies in league, ironically enough. I think it was Brian Boucher who was saying that. So forgive me for not knowing the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I think I heard that on the broadcast.
Yeah.
So we'll get to USA in a little bit, but I said to you guys earlier before the game started, I think that the Americans, Swayman's blunders aside, have the better goaltending between Hellebuck, Swayman, Ottinger than Team Canada, with Binnington, Kemper, and Thompson. I like the Americans' blue line 1 through 6 or 1 through 7, however you want to count it in these games. Then Canada has the best defenseman in the world in Makar. But the goaltending edge, the overall blue line edge, I give to the Americans. But here's my opening shift. Does it really matter when it comes down to winning a gold against the Canadians? Because the way that Connor McDavid is playing right now, and Nathan McKinnon, and Macklin Celebrini, and Sidney Crosby, I just think that the one check mark that Canada has over everybody, including the Americans, I just think is a far greater gap than the check mark margin that the U.S. has over Canada. And I just, watching these games, Bridget and Scott, obviously I think the Americans have a chance against the Canadians should they meet in the gold medal game. But I can't help but sit here and say Canada just has the 3 or 4 best players in the world. And I don't know if anybody can overcome that advantage that the Canadians have. The way Connor McDavid can do whatever he wants, pretty much whenever he wants to do it. You stop McDavid for a period or 2, maybe 3. Okay, well, good luck stopping McKinnon for a whole game or Celebrini. And it just, you can check those guys so well for the entirety of a game, but all it takes is one puck bounce over a defenseman's stick and McDavid's gone, or for McDavid to recognize a defenseman's caught in an off pivot and he just exploits them. Like, they don't need much. And I can't help but think that Canada losing a gold medal would be quite the upset, despite the Americans potentially having the better overall roster on paper.
Well, we know it's not France, so that's done. So that was going to be their toughest challenge, actually, but knocked out early, knocked out too soon.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty obvious watching the Canadians that it's going to take a really special effort from the U.S. or someone else, if it's not the U.S. in the gold medal game, to beat them. It was really close in 4 nations, right? The U.S. takes the first game, they lose in overtime in the second game. It was fun hockey to watch for that reason. It was close, it was physical, it had everything. They just seem dominant right now. And obviously these are against lesser teams, right? Like, we're watching them dominate countries that it's not like that's what it would look like against the US every time. If Canada and the US played a 3-game series, like it wouldn't look like the way they've been able to walk over the other teams in their group. So it'll be interesting to see the head-to-head. But it does feel like their offense just kind of does whatever it wants. There have been players on the US that I think have been quiet too, that are, I've thought, and I really think Eichel is a great player. I feel like he's been a little bit quiet at times. Sometimes he's had some assists, but like, I don't know. There's certain players on the roster who are kind of like, oh well, I didn't really notice them that much. And if Binnington is playing well, then it could be another similar situation to the Four Nations championship game.
So I was the only one of the three of us who picked Canada to win gold, and yet I am way less pessimistic about the Americans' chances here. Like, I still think that game's going to be a coin flip. I think it's going to be a great. I think that is what we're going to end up with for the gold medal game. I know the U.S. is going to have a tough challenge against Sweden in the quarterfinals, which that is ideally you would prefer your quarterfinal game to be easier than Sweden, but whatever. Got to play who's on the schedule. I still think we're going to get Canada, USA Sunday morning.
Hope so.
And yeah, because of what Bridget mentioned is why I don't see Canada being some sort of prohibitive favorite. Like, those Four Nation games weren't just close on the scoreboard. They were close in how they were played. It's not like Canada outshot the US 40-25 and the US just hung in there. Like, no, those were very evenly played games that in both cases really came down to one mistake. Canada had a bad line change in the first game that handed the US their winning goal. US screws up a D-zone coverage in overtime that hands Canada the winning goal in the gold medal game. Both of those games could have gone either way. And I feel like if they play now, it's going to look pretty much the same, because I think both of these teams are better than they were at Four Nations. Canada adding Celebrini has been massive. Mm-hmm. Like, he's been awesome in this tournament. And
adding Tom Wilson.
What's that?
And adding Tom Wilson. They didn't have him at Four Nations.
Yeah, so he can get thrown to the ground by French guys.
That was that was such a weak fight. I was so surprised.
France suspended that guy. What a weak move.
I was like, this guy should be a national hero.
It was a weak fight. It was a weak fight because Wilson realized I can't do this. So he kind of,
Yeah, because if he starts throwing real punches, then he probably gets the additional one game added on by the IIHF. So,
right. That guy, but yeah, France did that though. That was low.
Yeah, that's why, like, I will not be taking France seriously as a hockey country anytime soon.
Yeah, come on, let them play.
But yeah, so like Canada at Celebrini, that's a huge upgrade over what they had last year.
Yes.
But the U.S. adds Quinn Hughes, who missed all the Four Nations and has been really good so far. Let's assume health through the quarterfinals and semifinals. The U.S. would have Charlie McAvoy, who did not play in the final last year, and Matthew Tkachuk, who barely played in the final last year.
I think he took like a shift.
So, like, I still look at this and I'm like, yes, Canada clearly has more star power and firepower up front, but I also think, like, we can nitpick the way the U.S. has played. It hasn't looked super great at times in the Olympics, although, like, on the whole, they've still been pretty dominant. They come out of the group stage 3-0-0 plus 11 goal differential. But I also think, like, they're not getting, even though, yes, it's the Olympics and you'd love for guys to get up for every single game. Like, I'm sorry, they're not getting up for Latvia, Denmark, and Germany the same way they're going to get up for Canada. They're not, or even Sweden in the quarterfinals. So, yeah, I think, look, Canada was the favorite going in, and they still are, and they should be.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's like a head and shoulders favorite over the U.S. I still think that's going to be a great, really close game.
So I posed the question, can anybody beat Canada? to answer my own question, yes, the U.S. can beat Canada. And to your last point, Scott, it's not a head and shoulders situation. As I said earlier, I think on paper, overall, the argument is very favorable that the U.S. has the better team top to bottom. I guess, you mentioned Celebrini. I just think that if Celebrini and McKinnon and McDavid are reunited at any point during any game against anybody going forward, I really do think that they are unstoppable. And it's not just because of their speed and skill, but it's also because of their tenacity in the forecheck. They hunt pucks like they're fourth line grinders whose jobs depend on it, but they also have the best speed and skill in the world. And I think that line, should Canada go to it, I just think it's going to be unstoppable over the course of an entire game. And we know that these games come down to one shot. The other advantage I think that the Canadians have is behind the bench. I think their coaching staff, I would take over the U.S.'s coaching staff, and it's not to take a shot at Mike Sullivan or anybody over there. Tortorella. Who else is on the John Hines or
David Quinn?
Yeah,
John Hines.
So I like the U.S.'s bench. I do, but here's an example, right? I believe that Jack Hughes has been one of the better American forwards this tournament at generating chances and getting to his game quicker than his teammates. I think his speed has been evident. I know he's had a tough year at the NHL level. I know he's battled injuries, but I'm watching him out there, and every time he's out there, especially with some of the top players in power play situations or line changes, he's making things happen. But then he's stuck on 5-on-5 with JT Miller and Brock Nelson, who I actually like Hughes and Nelson's chemistry so far. But there's been a reluctancy by Team USA to let him play with some of these top players. And I'm not really sure why he's not getting more opportunities. Like, I look at the top line of Eichel and the Kachucks. Okay, you're not changing that, so I concede there. Matthews, Gensel, and Boldy, I think, have really picked up their game in the last two games, so I have no problems there. But I look at that third line, and I say, okay, you're toggling between Kyle Connor and Clayton Keller to play with Larkin and Thompson. Thompson, by the way, also hasn't gotten much ice time. Why not put Hughes with those two on your third line? Like, I think Hughes and Larkin and Thompson is a much better line than Kyle Connor, who continues to struggle with the USA emblem on his jersey. And Clayton Keller only has had one game to show what he's got. So I don't know if I have the same trust in the U.S. coaching staff to push the right buttons that I have in the Canadian coaching staff. And I think the Canadian coaching staff, they're showing you with Macklin Celebrini that, okay, yeah, he's young, but they're giving him trust. They're putting trust in him. And they know when to do McDavid, Celebrini, and Wilson, and they know when to do Celebrini, McDavid, and McKinnon. Like, I'm not seeing that in-game willingness by the U.S. coaching staff, because the U.S. roster, I agree, like Matthews and Eichel, they don't play the same way as McDavid. They're less flashy, and nobody has his speed. But I do think that they've been playing a complete game, and that the Americans are certainly capable of playing and defeating the Canadians. But it's the intangibles right now with Team Canada that I have them as the favorite, right? So if because of that, I would be more surprised if they lost the gold than if the Americans did. And that's where I stand right now. But I do think that do I think it's 50-50 between them? I think it's pretty damn close should they meet. But I do give the edge right now to Canada for those intangibles.
Yeah, I feel like the thing there with like Hughes and being on the fourth line is like, realistically, Sullivan's using that as the third line. Like, minutes wise, Nelson, Hughes, Miller is getting used like a third line, and Larkin, Thompson, and either Connor or Keller, they're getting fourth line minutes. So
that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I've liked the complexion of that Miller, Nelson, Hughes line. So I guess like I don't really mind that. And if they're gonna get a few more minutes, then I'm kind of okay with that, right? Like that there is some good, like there's some grit there. Nelson's a really good defensive center, but then Hughes brings an element of offensive creativity and generation that line wouldn't have otherwise, right? Like if it was just say it was Nelson, Miller, and Trocheck, then that's like really kind of more of a true checking line, and there's not that offensive element. So Hughes does kind of add that. So I guess I'm kind of okay with that. I wish they had. I mean, this comes back to the team selection. Like, I wish they just had another better offensive player to put somewhere in that bottom six, whether it's Jason Robertson or Cole Caulfield, because yeah, Kyle Connor has unfortunately come up small. He played the first 2 games, he was invisible. He was a healthy scratch the third game. I doubt he dresses for the quarterfinals or anything beyond, unless there's an injury. And yeah, Clayton Keller, we'll see. I like Clayton Keller, so thought he did some good things in Sunday's game against Germany, which was his first game. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like I still can't help looking at him being like, damn, I really wish you had Jason Robertson or Cole Caulfield as an option to try in one of these spots right now. But they don't. So they got to figure it out with what they have.
Yeah, I thought of Caulfield on a few occasions where I was like, oh, especially like on the power play, like, oh, it might have been, this might have been a good spot where you're like, okay, this is where we could put him in. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think of. I guess 2 things: Austin Matthews so far, and I think he's leading them in scoring right now. He didn't have a great 4 Nations. I think were 2 of his goals on the power play though. But anyway, I want your thoughts on Austin Matthews and on does the US have more players that kind of are, I don't know if relentless is the right word, but like unfazed by adversity the way that, say, like the Kachucks. I feel like stuff happens and they don't let the game get away from them. Like, do the U.S. have the right kind of players that won't let the game get away from them if they start slow and can like dig back into it if that's the kind of game it requires?
So I'll answer that question in just 1 second. I just wanted to say one other thing on that Hughes, Miller, Nelson line, Scott. I've liked them too. My concern is when you put them up against the Canadians, I just feel like Jack, if he's going to be on that line, fine. But I would like them to maybe spot him in some other shifts because I think he's the type of player who needs to get more reps than just one shift every 5 or 6 minutes. And so if that means that you put him on a shift with somebody else for a bit. But I also have concerns about Hughes with Miller and Nelson, who aren't the fastest players against a team like Canada. But Bridget, to your question, yes, I do think that the Americans have players that are strong-minded. I think Matthew Tkachuk, has been through the ringer the last 3 years with the Florida Panthers. I think that there's not going to be much that phases him. I think Brady's kind of the same way, despite his lack of playoff pedigree. And Jack Eichel's won a Stanley Cup. Jake Gensel's won a Stanley Cup. I don't really look at the U.S. team and say that I think they're immature between the ears. And then as far as Austin Matthews, who's one player you could probably point to their lack of playoff success, I think he's been good. I think his first game he was quiet. Like I said a few minutes ago, Matthews and Eichel, they're not going to jump off the screen like McDavid in terms of just being absolute jets through the neutral zone. Now, Jack Eichel moves faster than just about anybody else in the league besides McDavid. His skating stride, it doesn't seem it, but he is. I think Matthews, the last couple of games, I thought him, Gensel, and Boldy were quiet early in the first game. I thought their last couple of games have been very good. And I think that Matthews, you're starting to see him heat up. And I think that as much as you watch these games in group stage and you say, oh, U.S. versus Latvia and Denmark and Germany, and you want them to just dominate, which they did, but they didn't dominate their group as much as Canada dominated their group, which was a better group. It does take some time for these guys to gel. I know they played together at 4 Nations. It was a couple of games a year ago, and not everybody was accounted for. So it does take some time for these guys to get acclimated to new line mates, new roles, new ice time. So I think Matthews has been under the radar real good for the U.S., and you're starting to see him heat up a little bit. So they're going to need him because as this qualification round is shaking out, the bracket, it's looking like, barring any upset, that the Americans' reward for winning the number 2 overall seed is a quarterfinals date with the Swedes. Again, unless Latvia upsets Sweden, who Latvia is scrappy. But the U.S., if you play the Swedes in the quarterfinals, you're talking about playing the 3rd or 4th best team on paper in the tournament. So you're going to need your big boys going. And with all due respect to the Germans, who have Draisaitl and Stutzla and JJ Peterka and Mo Seider, you're going to go from playing group stage against a total of probably 12 or 13 NHLers spread across 3 teams to playing the Swedes, who are an entire roster of NHL stars. So you're going to have to go from 0 to 60 real quick. And Matthews is going to have to be one of those guys leading that charge.
Yeah, I don't see a way that the U.S. wins gold with Austin Matthews going quiet. Like, they need him on his game, and you're right, he's been on his game the last 2. I thought the second game against Denmark, he was good, much better than the first game, and then he was dominant against Germany. Like that line was awesome. He was awesome, not just scoring, but also like he was just setting up high danger chances. Some great passing and vision in the offensive zone. So yeah, like the U.S. needs that. I think that's kind of one of those things that's a non-negotiable for them. Is like, I don't necessarily need like Austin Matthews to be better than Connor McDavid out there. Like that's probably going too far, but you need him to be a real impact player and on his game. So, I would say we didn't really get that at 4 Nations. And unfortunately, when the gold was on his stick in overtime, Jordan Binnington robbed him. So, yeah, I think there's like, you hope that motivates him, right? Like you hope that he feels like he has unfinished business. And I think he does. I think this whole U.S. team does, right? Like, I think they feel like it was there for the taking last year and they just came up short. And like, yeah, everyone wants to win Olympic gold just because it's Olympic gold. And that alone is enough motivation. But getting back at Canada and like proving themselves there, I think is also a massive motivation for this group.
Yeah. And maybe there's probably something to be said about being able to gain confidence before you have to play Canada too. Like having the first 3 games to get yourself going and not feel snake bitten because you already seen the puck go in. Maybe that helps a few guys, build up the confidence for the final. But once again, we don't know it's going to be them, but we don't know for sure. But I wanted to ask you how you thought the Bruins players, not just on US, but just as a whole, spread out across the teams have been.
So I was going to just bring up David Pastrnak and ask you guys, but Scott, before I forget, I also wanted to get your thoughts on the McAvoy-Hughes pairing, because I saw that you had a comment on that. But let's go to David Pastrnak real quick. I think that he's had his moments and he's had some timely production, right? I think that against Team Canada, again, not having Pavel Zacha, I think was a big blow to the checks for their depth of their top 6 forwards in Zacha himself alone. But I also think that you lost some built-in chemistry with your top player in David Pastrnak. I think Pastrnak would have had seamless chemistry with Zacha from the jump. I think Zacha not being there obviously takes out Zacha, but I think it took out Pastrnak for a little bit as well. So against Team Canada, understandably so, when they're rolling out the 4 lines that they are, and the Czech only has like a line and a half, you're going to get outworked, outskated, and overwhelmed. But against France, you're playing Team France. And by the way, tip of the cap to France and Italy, because I think that they busted their ass. Those 2 rosters, I think, have 1 NHL current player combined. And I know that the Italians got smoked by Finland 11-0. That was their one-off game. But I think those 2 teams, they worked hard, all things considered. But against Team France, I thought Pastrnak was out for his skate. until France went up 3-2. And then he was like, oh shit, I gotta do something here. So he finally gets a goal, which was good, ties the game. And then he had a very big assist against I want to say Denmark or no, Switzerland, I think, to force overtime.
Yeah.
And so he's had his moments of timely production. But I think overall, in terms of puck possession and offensive generation, I think he's been just a little bit underwhelming. That doesn't mean invisible. It just means a little bit underwhelming for me because my standard for him is so high as one of the top players in the world. And I just think that going forward in the medal round, or not the medal rounds, the knockout round, he has to be more dominant for the Czechs, I think. And it starts against Denmark in the qualification game, which is going to be in a matter of a couple of hours here.
Yeah, so we should mention just timing wise, we are recording before that Czech Denmark game. That game's probably underway by the time we get this uploaded. So we don't know what Pastrnak is doing in that game. Hopefully producing and leading the Czechs to victory.
He'll have 4 goals and people will timestamp my comments on him.
But yeah, I think so. Hockeystats.com has been tracking like chance creation. That obviously there aren't the same kind of like advanced analytics for Olympic hockey that there are for NHL because the IIHF just doesn't track as much. But they do have like chance creation stats, and for both, so like individual scoring chances and scoring chances set up. And Pasternak's near the top of the list for the tournament. Like it's like him, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Nachos is up there, Celebrini. So it's like he's in that elite company, but it hasn't translated to points, right? He has three points in 3 games going into the knockout rounds. So yeah, I think you would expect more actual production from him. I thought the Czechs started with him on a line. They loaded it up. It was Pastrnak, Nachos, and Tomas Hertl. Probably the 3 best forwards. And I just didn't really think they had much chemistry. Like that just didn't really click. So they changed things up as the tournament went along. And I think for this qualification game, playoff game against Denmark, it looked like they were going to put Pastrnak with 2 like Czech league players, including Roman Cervenka, who is the team captain. He's like a legend in, he played some NHL games, but is really more of a legend in the Czech Republic. He's played a lot of years over there, been on a lot of world championship teams, and him and Pastrnak have played together at world championships.
Calgary Flames legend, Roman Cervenka.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So we'll see how that goes. But they're clearly a team that has been trying to figure out some combinations that work. Unfortunately for Pastrnak, like even if him and the Czechs win this game against Denmark, then you go into the buzzsaw that is Canada for the quarterfinals. So, and Canada dominated them to open the group stage, 5-0. Czechs never had a chance in that game. So it would seem extremely unlikely that the Czechs will be playing in the medal round. If somehow they pulled off an upset against Canada, it probably means that like Pastrnak did have some superhuman effort. Like I don't know that there's any other way the Czechs win that game. So, yeah, they struggled in the group stage. That overtime loss to Switzerland was huge, and it backed them into a really tough spot for the knockout round.
Yeah.
Bridget, go ahead.
I'll agree with you there, Scott, that we know he's capable of more. But there's definitely a lot of even more weight put on his shoulders with that team than he feels on the Bruins in terms of production. So yeah, I think I would like to see. I was excited to see him in the Olympics because I thought there was a chance he might go off, but yeah, that hasn't quite happened yet. We'll see. Hopefully, this is outdated, I guess, and we see more in the next round. But also, few Swedish guys that are there. Don't know how much you've seen Sweden.
That's the entirety of the analysis. They're there.
Well, yeah, kind of like. So Elias Lindholm has played 2 games. Hampus Lindholm has played 1 game. it hasn't
Well,
really been.
I was gonna say he dressed for one game. He didn't play a single shift.
Okay, so yeah, like there hasn't been much to report back on in terms of Bruins for Sweden.
Well, Elias Lindholm, we can say, has been disappointing. Like, he started in a top 6 role in their first game, didn't do anything, and then the second game against Finland, his ice time plummeted. He was a -2, so he's played 2 games. He doesn't have a point. He's a -2. He has 1 shot on goal, and then fell to healthy scratch territory for the finale. Now, I haven't seen if he's going to be in their lineup for this knockout game against Latvia, but and I will say too, like, Sweden's coach has come under a lot of criticism, and I think pretty fairly. Some of their lineup decisions have been baffling. Like, Jesper Bratt is now the 13th forward. Philip Forsberg started as the 13th forward. Like, and meanwhile, like, Pontus Holmberg gets to keep playing. Like, just some weird decisions there. So we'll see if either Lindholm plays more in the knockout round, but yeah, really nothing doing there so far.
Well, is he on their power play?
And he wasn't on their top unit. No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was on either unit.
So that's my point. Like, you know, even in Boston, he's not really a 5-on-5 generator, and he's playing with David Pastrnak for how many games? He's more of his offense than not is generated from the power play. So he's not getting that opportunity for Team Sweden, and I'm not entirely surprised that his scoring hasn't really been there. I think obviously, and I forgot to mention this loss for Sweden on our preview episode, but they don't have Leo Carlsson. You know, I mentioned Sasha Barkov is not there for the Finns. Leo Carlsson's not there for Sweden. He is one of the bright young centers in the game, and with his size and speed is a very unique talent. So obviously him not being there opened the door for Lindholm to be moved up higher in the lineup. Even though he's higher than some guys, I think they have, like, the fact that he was higher on the depth chart than, you know, Mika Zibanejad or Elias Pettersson was surprising to me off the jump, because I do think that those guys are better players, but even without Leo Carlsson around. So yeah, we'll see what happens with him.
You know what I will say had crossed my mind watching a couple of those Sweden games was, first, like, that team was playing on the perimeter a lot, and they didn't have a lot of traffic in front of the net. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I feel like Victor Arvidsson could help this team. Like, I don't know that I thought that going in, but watching how that team has played, I'm like, at the very least, you know, Arvidsson's going to get to the net and, like, create some chaos. And it feels like that team could use some of that. So yeah, we'll see. Like, I still don't like that the U.S. is, you know, assuming Sweden gets by Latvia, that the U.S. has to face them in the quarterfinals. But I will say that Sweden has been much less impressive than I would have thought going into the tournament. So, yeah, I guess if you're the U.S., you hope they don't figure it out and, like, really start clicking right about now,
Right.
because then they could definitely pose a problem. But it has been pretty disjointed for Sweden so far.
Yeah, and I think the Bruins player with the most goals in the tournament isn't that Shamus? Doesn't he have 2? And so, like, that, if Pasta has 1, McAvoy doesn't have 1. So, like, Shamus for why am I blanking right now?
Latvia.
For Latvia, he's been good when he's played internationally. I don't know how much you saw of Latvia besides the game against the US, but yeah, he's kind of an instigator in that game a little bit too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed that he was kind of getting into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he got away with a headshot on Austin Matthews.
Yes, he did.
He had a wide open net. He almost scored on the US. I forget, some defenseman blocked it at the last second, but it was kind of a play, I feel like, that started with Shamus maybe causing a turnover or something, and then he almost scored at the other end. So yeah, I mean, he's been good for Latvia.
Yeah, he had two power play goals in their win over Germany. That was their only win of the group stage. First one was an easy tap-in, but the second one was a snipe from the right circle, just roofed it over the shoulder. So yeah, he's done this before, right? Like, World Championships last year, he was Latvia's leading goal scorer. Famously earned, like, some kudos from Sidney Crosby after the Latvia-Canada game. He was on that Latvia team in 2023 that won bronze at World Championships. It was the country's first ever medal in any tournament. So yeah, he does have a knack for stepping up against tougher competition, which it certainly, like, I don't know if it's this year or not, but like makes me want to see him in the NHL to see if like that kind of like that skill translates, right? Like, does he also step up against NHL competition? I think I want to find out the answer to that at some point, and I think the Bruins do too. Obviously, like, this is his first professional season in Providence this year, so like you don't have to rush it, but yeah, he's gonna play NHL games at some point.
Yeah, and he's also playing an elevated role for Latvia, whereas if you were on the Bruins, he may have to make more with less in terms of ice time, but you never know. I mean, obviously, I and we were very, very fond of Lars Mellis this past summer and heading into the season, and his performance at not only he had a very respectable career at UMass Amherst, but then he goes to Providence, the Providence Bruins, puts up 12 points in 6 games, and then parlays that into a really strong World Championship performance, where, as Scott mentioned, Sidney Crosby is singing his praises, and you're just his hype was there heading into the his first full pro season. So not discouraged at all that he has been in Providence this year, but to the point you're making, Scott and Bridget, I'm sure you echo it. Like, definitely an exciting player to try to keep tabs on going forward, along with some other young promising players that the Bruins should be icing in the near future. But just quickly, barring any upsets, just to kind of set the stage, this is probably what the course of the gold medal looks like. The quarterfinal matchups, again, barring any upsets. What we know already is we're going to have Finland, Germany, or I think it's Finland, Swiss.
Yeah.
So Finland, Swiss is one quarterfinal matchup. Germany is playing Slovakia in another. And then the two that we're waiting on is who plays the US and Canada. So it should be, based on rosters on paper, Sweden versus US, and then Czech Republic versus Canada. Although I will say that Czech-Denmark game is, I think that the Dens very easily could win that game and play Canada in the quarters. And then from there...
Did you say the Dens?
Did I say the Dens? Danes, Danish, Denmarks, Denmarkians. What do you want me to say? I'll give you every moniker I could think of.
Yeah.
But I thought I said Danes. Did I say the Dens?
Maybe. You're talking fast. It sounded like Dens.
I agree. I was going to call him on it, but you beat me to it. So
roll the tape. Roll the tape. No. The Danes, the Danish, the Denmarkians, the Dens. Mm-hmm. I'll call them everything under the sun.
Great. Now I have to have a Danish.
So, and then from there, it looks like, again, you should probably have a semifinal matchup between Canada and Finland, right? Probably. And then the US versus either Slovakia or Germany, right? So,
well, what I will note there is they reseed for the semis. So if Germany knocked off Slovakia, then you would get Canada, Germany, and USA, Finland.
Okay. I mean, so I guess that's TBD then. So for the US, if they can take care of business themselves, you're either looking at Sweden, Finland, Canada, presumably, or Sweden, Slovakia, Canada. And then for Canada, you're looking at either of the Czechs or the Danes, and then Finland or Germany, and then the US. So I guess that's the semifinals. We'll see on that. But Scott, I wanted to get your take on McAvoy, because I know you saw something online about was it Craig Button?
Yeah, so this is I forget where this came from. Was it TSN? I don't even remember. But but Craig Button had a take that he would split up the McAvoy Quinn Hughes pairing. And basically his argument seemed to be that McAvoy is taking too many risks, and that's causing Quinn Hughes to be more hesitant. And I just don't see that at all. Like, I think there's a case to be made if you want to rearrange the USA D pairs, but it's not that to me. Like, I'm like, maybe I'm just watching a different game, but I think McAvoy has been playing very under control and disciplined, and in a lot of ways has like been a real safety blanket for Quinn Hughes. Like I do see Quinn Hughes activating and getting involved. He hasn't looked that hesitant to me. So like I just thought that was an odd take. If you want to argue that, hey, Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber have chemistry in Minnesota, and maybe you want to see that here, and then you put McAvoy with either Zach Werenski or Jacob Slavin, like I'm open to that argument, but the idea that like that McAvoy is somehow hurting Quinn Hughes right now, I really don't see at all. I think they've complemented each other very well, and I think that's been a really good pair. They've not been on the ice for a single goal against. I feel like every time they are on the ice, the puck's in the offensive zone, and the U.S. is creating chances. So I just thought that was a little bit odd.
I really just, the part of it that's weird to me isn't even about like the McAvoy half of the argument. It's about how can you look at what Quinn Hughes is doing and be like, oh, he's handcuffed. Like he's been doing everything fine. Like I feel like we're watching Quinn Hughes be Quinn Hughes. Like he doesn't seem conserved in any way. So that's what I don't understand. He's been stepping into the offense. He's been, I mean, we don't watch him a lot because he's been out west, but to me that he just looked like himself and has been a positive for sure when he's been out there. So it's not like when we talk about when Lori was with McAvoy, right? Like when you have to cover up for someone's defensive mistakes or, versus playing with somebody who you're allowed to jump up with and you don't have to worry about that, because these are two guys that are really smart defensemen, really good defensively and have offensive talent. Quinn Hughes obviously more than anyone else, but I just don't understand that either, Scott. So
yeah, I mean, I'm with both of you, and Scott, you're not wrong when you say, am I watching a different game? No, you're not. I mean, I have actually thought that McAvoy has been very well aware of who his partner is, and I do think he's kind of gone out of his way to be more conservative. So from that standpoint, I disagree with Button, but the other side of Craig's argument was to also try to free up McAvoy by putting him with Slavin. And, in that sense, I'm not totally in disagreement there. I do think that, in playing with Quinn Hughes, the question is are you optimizing Charlie's skill set? And if the answer is no, but it's still better for the team, then you keep them together. But if the answer is no, and you think that splitting them up could help balance out your pairs, then I think it's something you could explore. I'll say this. I was surprised heading into the tournament that Faber and Hughes weren't the initial pairing, simply because they've been lights out in Minnesota for the last month and a half. And I know that Faber and Slavin were excellent together in the Four Nations. I totally get that. But I felt like McAvoy and Slavin could be that same type of pair. I also think that Werenski is somebody that you don't want to lose in the shuffle either. So, you've seen them put him with Hughes at times, which obviously wouldn't be Hughes and Faber either. So it really is an embarrassment of riches. And I think it comes down to, who's optimized best on each pair. And I think that if the argument is you split up Hughes, McAvoy, and Werenski so that each one of them can be the guy on their pair, I think there's a valid case to be made there, right? You put Faber with Hughes does his thing, Faber complements. You put McAvoy with Slavin, McAvoy does his thing, Slavin complements. You put Werenski with Sanderson, and maybe Hannafin subbing in, like then Werenski's your guy there. But the other comment too is I was also surprised because to my knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if McAvoy and Hughes have ever paired together in any sort of international play, even when they were in their youth. Like I think that they were too far apart in age, but I could be wrong about that. So that was also why I was surprised. I feel like this is their first time ever playing together.
I think you're probably right. So I guess here's my take is I actually think, given this roster, I think how the US is using McAvoy now is the best way to use McAvoy on this team.
Okay.
Is him being more of the shutdown guy on a pairing. Because I also think he's just about as good at that as anyone the US has. And yeah, the Bruins need McAvoy to help drive offense and be involved there. I don't think the US needs that as much. And I think McAvoy's strength, like what he does best, remains defense. I think his offensive game has grown this year, and he's points per game wise on a career best pace. But I don't necessarily want him being the guy on his pairing. Like I actually think like if I were going to put him anywhere else, I'd put him with Werenski with the same idea as what he's doing with Hughes. Like put him with one of the real offensive guys and have him be kind of like the shutdown complement on that. Like I like that dynamic. So which is why going in, like I wanted to start with Hughes McAvoy. I wanted to see what that looked like because I think that has the potential to be like the best top pairing the US can have. And really nothing that's happened has changed my mind. So like I wouldn't change it, but even if I did, I'd put McAvoy with Werenski, not Slavin. Like to me, it's like I want Hughes with whether that's McAvoy or Faber, someone that allows him to activate offensively. Same thing with Werenski. I want him with one of those guys. And then you can figure out your third pairing. Maybe it's Slavin and Sanderson. I mean, Sanderson's a pretty good offensive defenseman too. Like maybe it's something like that.
Can I ask you guys a question? Assuming that they played the Canadians, right, at some point, what D pair combination would you make sure that any chance you can you're sticking out there against McDavid's line? And the reason I ask that is because if it's McAvoy's pair with Hughes, do we possibly underestimate Quinn Hughes' defensive ability too, because we all focus on his offensive game, but his skating and his ability to make up ground with his skating and check with his feet. So I'll pose that question to you guys. Like, would it be Faber Slavin, Hughes McAvoy, or something else?
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. It was mostly they were trying to get Slavin out there against them in Four Nations, right?
But he's also apparently playing injured right now too, which I just wanted to mention. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's 100%.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up because that's what we've seen. But yeah, Slavin was phenomenal in Four Nations. And if he's dealing with something that's slowing him down, you obviously don't want to match anybody not at full speed with McDavid, but or Celebrini. So yeah, I mean, I guess that McAvoy Hughes pair could be a good option there. I don't know I guess I'll ask it this way. Is there any pair you think could be like overly exposed? Is there a pair that you don't think could handle the assignment? I feel like they're probably all capable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting because like the defenseman so Jackson Lacombe has not dressed, so like take him out of it for now. Like the defenseman that's kind of worried me the most is Noah Hannafin, and he was a guy that, look, if it was up to me, wouldn't have been on this team. Not that I'm like a Noah Hannafin hater, but I just thought the U.S. had like 8 better defense options. But I will say Noah Hannafin against Canada last year was pretty good because he can skate with those guys. He's a very good skater. Yeah. So in that sense, like maybe I'm not super worried about like any one pairing getting exposed. You're right. Like Slavin Faber was the matchup they tried to get last year, but or at least in the gold medal game. Remember the first game, it was McAvoy that they wanted out there against McDavid. Mm-hmm. He famously had that huge hit on him. So yeah, I think I would want McAvoy Hughes. I think that's like what I would try to get as a matchup. And now Canada would have last change, so they would get to pick matchups, but I would probably try to get McAvoy and Hughes out there because you have to try to flip the ice. Like you have to try to pin that line in their own zone and force them to defend. You can't just like accept that, well, we're just gonna pack it in defensively and try to, just try to hang on for dear life. Like I don't think you're gonna hang on for dear life all game. So you gotta try to get some time in the O zone against them.
Do you think that there could be an adverse effect where, okay, you're potentially shutting them down, which you could make the case that in and of itself is good enough, which but would it simultaneously be taking Quinn Hughes' offense out of the game and his dynamic game-changing ability because he would be so focused on defending? Or do you think I'm just over complicating it and, he'd give chances, he'd get chances too?
I think what Scott means is if you put the McAvoy-Hughes pair out there, hopefully they're dominant enough in the O zone that they're spending more time there than back up. Yeah, well, so like they would be expending energy offensively.
You're making them defend. You're making Canada defend.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you're not gonna pin that line in all game every shift. Like that's impossible. But I think you got to do it at least a shift here, and like you got to be able to do it at least a shift here and there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like maybe that does take away from some of what Quinn Hughes can do, but also part of me is just like really embrace best on best, right? Like Quinn Hughes is one of the 2 best defensemen in the world. Let's see what he does against Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah. How do you think Canada's defense has been in this tournament? Obviously, if you compare the U.S. and Canada, like I said, the blue lines, they have the best defenseman in Cale Makar, but 1 through 7, or 8, you can, I think U.S. has the better blue line. But on paper, how much does that really matter? Because like you watch these games with Canada, and it's like, would I take Colton Parayko over, McAvoy or Werenski or anything? Slavin? No, but he's still a pain in the ass to play against and has a massive wingspan, right? Like they're Travis Sanheim, he's still a bitch to play against if he's dressing. Like they're not as good on paper as a total decor, but it's like, okay, well, you don't really need to be when you're still hard to play against and you have the forwards that they do.
Yeah, I feel like Canada's defense just hasn't been tested. Like you would have hoped that the Czechs would have been able to test them more, but that didn't really happen. Like I said, I think the Czechs at that first game of the tournament just had not found their game or any chemistry at all, or chemistry. They didn't find that either.
I miss chemistry.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen some Canadian fans kind of critical of Parayko and worried about his foot speed a little bit. And, even Drew Doughty at an advanced age, maybe slowing down a little. So I don't again, you're going to have to try to pin some of those guys in and force them to make plays to get out of the zone. And maybe they make a couple of mistakes, maybe because, maybe they are a little less mobile than you are. And you can force some stuff on the forecheck. Like, that's going to have to be part of the plan. Obviously, Cale Makar is 1 of 1, so he's going to be just fine in any matchup. But the rest of that Canada decor, yeah, maybe you try to force them to have to make plays getting out of the zone.
All right.
Yeah, I like how you called Drew Doughty at an advanced age, which makes me feel like he's 90 or something. I feel like I only hear that terminology used for we sent him to the old person home and advanced stage.
He is. He's 71 years old.
Do you remember where he is? Is he? I don't know. But that's what it sounded like.
So, also, just a quick overall Olympic note. I don't know if you guys have been keeping tabs on the medal count, but the leader in the clubhouse right now is actually a nation that doesn't have a team involved in the hockey tournament, and they have in the past, and that is Norway. Last I checked, they were in the lead with 28 medals. I want to say the U.S. was in third with maybe 23. I forget who was in second.
Italy's up there. Italy's won a bunch of gold.
I think Italy was second last I checked. But
who was second?
Italy.
Oh, okay. Any surprises with that medal count board?
Well, I think didn't Norway always wins in the winter, but I also think 90% of their medals are in speed, like the racing. That's just
it's like all skiing. It's like a bunch of cross country skiing.
I thought it was a bunch of no, what am I thinking of? Who's the country that's been awesome with
the Dutch dominate speed skating?
That's what it is. Yeah, the speed skating is the Dutch.
Yeah, I went viral in the Netherlands.
Did you
for my tweet about that? Yeah.
What was it?
I just tweeted that it's funny how the Dutch always dominate speed skating and do nothing else at the Winter Olympics. They're even the other ice sports. It's Hockey, nope, not gonna have a team. Figure skating, don't think so. Like all they do is speed skating. They just skate really fast.
Does Denmark hate you now?
Not Denmark, Netherlands.
Netherlands, do they hate you now? Sorry.
No, they love me.
It's
They
the
love
Dens,
me.
the Dens, Bridget. The Dens.
No, they rightly understood it as a compliment.
Oh, that was a compliment? That didn't
It was a little backhanded, I will say.
The most back. I thought it was an insult.
No, I'm crediting them for just like picking one sport and being like, we're just gonna dominate this one sport.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And then like as people were pointing out too, it's funny that the Dutch also dominate. They're really good in field hockey. So they're really good at speed skating. They're really good at field hockey, and yet they just don't play ice hockey.
There's no overlap there. Yeah.
Guys, any lingering Boston Bruins thoughts while we have each other? The one thing I will say is 12 wins in a row for the Providence Bruins. They obviously are not on an Olympic break right now, even though Don/Melis is in Milano. But so tip of the cap to them.
My one thought is the Bruins are the Bruins who are not at the Olympics are back on the ice Wednesday. That'll be their first practice back at Warrior Ice Arena. They're gonna have like a week long, basically like a mini camp. I'm interested to see what it's gonna look like. Obviously, both of their goalies are at the Olympics, so I don't know if they're calling up DiPietro or Zahaicek or Kavalin or someone just to practice with them, or maybe they're calling on the services of Razor and Tuca. I don't know, but
I don't know, Scott. You could lace them up, right?
Not goalie. No.
Not goalie. Well, you just stand there. I don't know. Get the walrus from the Geico.
I'm not standing in front of a Nikita Zadorov slap shot. I will just break. My whole body will just crumble.
Duck out of the way. I didn't have any Bruins thoughts. I did want to quickly mention the women though. We talked about it for maybe like 3 minutes earlier, but shout out to Erin Frankel for doing something that doing a few things that no goalie in the Olympics has ever done. She's got 3 shutouts. That's never been done. I think the U.S. is on a combined shutout over the course of 3 different goalies. Their third goalie only played like 2 minutes of it, but over the course of the last over a week are over 300 minutes without allowing a goal. So for the women, U.S. goaltending is just absolutely insane. And their 2 main goalies are from Northeastern. Gwen Phillips is the backup, even though she's would start on any other team, to Erin Frankel, who has been really dominant, not just in the Olympics, but in her professional career when she was at Northeastern. Every time she's played recently against Canada for the rivalry series, she's fun to watch. She's really good. And I know some people that actually think that Gwen Phillips is equally good, if not better. So the fact that you are able to field probably the 2 best goalies in the world on the same roster, the depth is just crazy there. And then the young women that are on the US are extremely impressive, because I think just the way that they're built, you have your veterans. I feel like Canada's more veteran heavy. The US has a good amount of veterans, prime, middle of, 25 to 28-year-olds, and then some really, really talented 20 to 24-year-olds that are on this team. Abby Murphy has been outstanding, and she's a little feisty too, which I think the US women have an edge that maybe the Canadian women don't necessarily have. And I think Tessa Janicki, who's from Penn State, also has a little bit of that edge. She's been good. Layla Edwards. I'm naming the college players that are on this.
She's been fantastic. What a release she has, huh?
Yeah, Caroline Harvey. These are young players. These are college age women who are doing a lot of really impressive things. I heard I think it was Matt Kachuk called Caroline Harvey the Bobby Orr of the team, and she's the most noticeable player out there, and she does wear 4. There's just a lot of really fun players, young fun players on that team, and a lot of them do have connections to around here. Caroline Harvey's from New Hampshire. Quite a few players played at Northeastern BC, like Barnes and Bilka both played part of their college careers at BC.
Alex Carpenter,
Carpenter, Keller. There's just a bunch of local connections to players who either currently play for the Fleet, played college in Boston, are from New England. Like there's a bunch of stuff to talk about with that, but I just think that they're the favorite. After watching them beat Canada 5-0, which another thing that Aaron Frankel did that no one else has done, shut out Canada. That was the first time Canada's ever been shut out in an Olympic game. And obviously they were without Poulin, who's their captain, and they call her Captain Clutch for a reason. She finds a way to score. She did it they almost lost to Switzerland, but she scored both their goals in a 2-1 win over Switzerland yesterday. And so she does make a difference, but even if she played that game, maybe it's 5-1. Like it's hard for me to think that the way that the U.S. is playing, it would have made like so much of a difference that the result would have been different. So I think the U.S. is a major favorite, and I'm excited to watch them the gold medal game because I know they have revenge on their mind too. So that's certainly something you'll hear them talk about.
Yeah, that shutout streak that the U.S. women have right now is the longest in Olympic history, men's or women's.
Yeah, by quite a bit too. By like a game.
by over a full game at this point.
Yeah.
I think heading into these Olympic Games, the Canadian women's team had only suffered, I want to say, 3 losses in their Olympic history or something like that. I think they were like 38 or something along those lines. But it's been incredibly rare, and the U.S. women's team have an opportunity to beat them twice in the same tournament. Just a few comments from me. First and foremost, Hillary Knight. What is the record that she is chasing / on like or maybe just recently tied? Was it goals by in the Olympics by a U.S. women's player, or is she like goals by a female Olympian in general? I
think it's U.S. because there's at least one Canadian, I believe, that has more. Is it?
Well, I think Poulin just passed Wickenheiser for the most ever.
Yeah.
So Hillary Knight must be American.
Has she matched it or has she exceeded it yet? I know she was like right around the number in their first or second game.
I thought she passed it, but you know what? I'd have to go back and double check because she had goals in both of the first 2 games, and she's either tied or in first now. I believe she passed, and who she passed was Katie King Crawley, who's the BC head coach, BC women's hockey head coach here. Actually have an interview with her tomorrow, so we'll see if we talk some Olympics for that. But
and the other thing I wanted to mention, and Bridget, I'd like you to speak to this as well, if you can go back into your memory bank of growing up in the area, but the impact that this U.S. women's team is having, will have. You talk about the 2018 women's team that won gold in the shootout. So if the U.S. can win this next game, even if they lose, right? But let's just say they win 2 out of 3 Olympic golds. You look at what the U.S. women's team is doing. You look at the Fleet, right, and women's professional leagues being launched onto the scene in the last couple of years. You look at little things, Bridget, like the women's Beanpot having their finals at the Garden, not nationally, but locally televised. And just just the impact that and the growth in female and women's hockey. I'm sure that the youth programs, like the options are so much more vast than when we were growing up. I mean, I didn't
have an option when I was growing up.
Right. Like I remember, like, if you were a girl and you wanted to play hockey, you had to find a boys team, right? And that's just not the case. So, there's been incredible growth in women's hockey, and teams like the U.S. women's team people like yourself who are working in the game, and just if you want to speak to just that in general.
Yeah, so I think I actually can give decent insight into this because I've worked with a few of the women who were on the gold medal team in Nagano that the U.S. women won the very first time that women's hockey was in the Olympics in the 90s. And even just talking, so 4 years ago, think of this. 4 years ago, there was no PWHL. And what the American and Canadian teams were doing to prepare were scrimmaging each other. Like, they were just scrimmaging. Like, they didn't have a league that they were playing in. All of the best players weren't playing in was it the PHF or the whatever it was before the PWHL. They would spend years centralized just playing each other for over and over and over, and just it was completely different. They weren't getting paid really. And that was just 4 years. That was the last Olympics. And now it's completely different. Like, now they have somewhere to play. Now they are doing the same thing the men are doing. Like, Erin Frankel has only gotten better because she's playing against the best players all the time and seeing different looks. And like, it's just all a catalyst. And it's crazy to see too with the college side of it. Because like I kind of watched them go through like the whole system, and there's so much more energy in the college game as well, because there's something to look forward to that's legitimate at the end of college. Like, there were plenty of times where 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I'm speaking to women and it was not even brought up in conversation. It was like, no, I'm going to go like work as in a financial firm, or you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And now the conversation is, I'm going to just keep getting better and try my luck at the draft and see if I can make it. And there's some really, really good skill that hasn't even made its way to the professional ranks yet. Like, the level below what we're watching right now, like the Northeastern, for example, has a player named Striker Zablocki, who's phenomenal and will be a professional at some point. She's only maybe 19 or something right now. That like the freshman and sophomore classes in college right now are better than what I've seen in the past. Like, it just keeps getting better. The league is going to keep getting better. The female hockey players are getting better at like younger ages because there's more infrastructure for coaching and all of that stuff and support. And I think a lot of credit goes to the women who did it when it was harder and it wasn't easy, like Katie Crawley and Hillary Knight, even, so she's been around so long that she was kind of part of that too, that next wave. And the coaches that like Dave Flint, for the most part, has only coached women and helped a lot of them become professional. And he was one of the reasons why the women's bean pot is at TD Garden. Like, he has always backed the fact that this is a sport that is entertaining and people should give a lot more time and resources to developing it, because they're making money off of it now, right? Like, there's a huge opportunity for revenue in women's hockey. And I think you see it every time the Olympics come around, but now we don't just have to wait till the Olympics to see it, which is, I think, it's been a very important thing. Sorry that I went on for like a very long tangent, not tangent, a long.
No,
and it's just gonna keep inspiring like more and more girls to play, because I mean I'm old enough to remember that 1998 team and the impact that had, because like I knew girls who like really got into hockey as a result of that. My sister being one of them, not like only because of that, but like my sister had an Angela Ruggiero jersey. So
Angela Ruggiero was my color commentator for the women's bean pot.
Yeah, and so like a lot of these players now, or from say the 2010s Olympic cycle, were players who grew up being inspired by that team, right? And then like so like that creates the next generation, and now this US team winning gold in 2018, hopefully winning gold here, like that's going to create a next generation. The PWHL is helping with that. Obviously, they're in front of more eyeballs than any women's professional league has ever been before, both in terms of the arenas they're playing in, the the tours that they're going on, not even just the home markets that have teams, but they're going to cities all over North America for one-off games that are selling out or coming close to selling out, that are putting it in front of fans in Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Seattle and Halifax and like wherever. Like it's like that's huge. It's like that has not, with all due respect to like the precursor women's pro leagues, like that's never happened before. Like they've never had that platform that, you know, they have TV deals and streaming and like it's like it's clearly at a level now that it's never been at before, and it's only going to keep going higher as, again, like as there's just more and more women and girls playing hockey. Like that next generation is going to look even better.
They say that women's sports too, if you look like at it from a financial standpoint, is one of the biggest opportunities for like a area of the market that it could grow. Like it has a huge, like there is more viewership than I think people realize. And if once you do put it on TV, it makes people want to watch it more and get involved. And so there's a reason why the Dodgers owners created the league and thought that it wasn't just like a philanthropy. Like they think they can make money off of it in the long term. And they said they would back it for at least, I think, 7 or 8 years, even if it doesn't turn a profit originally. But I'm pretty sure that they're not having issues with that. I haven't seen anything, but from just watching it, doesn't seem like they're in danger of folding. So there's a reason why money was put into it, and it's because they think that money can come out of it. And they own the whole league. So just an interesting situation with that too.
And look at someone like the impact of someone like Ellen Hughes, right? I mean, she forges her own hockey journey. She was on that 98 team, right, Scott?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously she's the mother of 2 NHL stars and Olympians in Jack and Quinn, and she's involved with the women's team right now in Milan, which is just so it's great to see the success of the women's programs. Before we sign out, one final thought from me. We were talking about the
quick correction. She was not on the 98 team. She was on an earlier world championship team before women's hockey was even in the Olympics.
Okay.
She's still part of the team. Like she's still on their staff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. What year was that world championship? Was it
92?
Okay. Scott mentioned the Bruins players that aren't in the Olympics going back to practice soon. Do you guys know who their first game is against when they come back from break?
The Columbus Blue Jackets,
the team that's right behind them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing. I think it could, come on, boys, hit the ground running, breaks over, right? I think that's good for their mentality, assuming that they can, take advantage of that game. Okay. We will get out of here. Thank you all very much for listening. Any final thoughts from the two of you?
I'm going to go watch the Czech.
All right. Enjoy Olympic hockey, and we will talk to you all on Thursday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.